Welcome to Duo Chat with Brittany
and Cynthia, where we talk about drama shows
like Dawson's Creek, One Tree Hill, and more.
Hi everyone, I'm Brittany.
And I'm Cynthia.
And today we're talking about season 3, episode 8, titled The Worst Day Since Yesterday. Air day November 30th, 2005, and the synopsis is:
After Lucas finds Chris in her bed, Brooke's scared this mistake cost her the possible love of her life. Dan calls into the radio station to point out on air that Karen is unmarried and checks on Nathan's condition for the new season, but gets the cold shoulder. Brooke loses the rights to her designs and Payne helps her get them back. Coach tells the team he'll retire after the season. Lucas plays badly at the first game because his mind is distracted with Brooke sleeping with Chris. Haley and Nathan are back on speaking terms, and Mouth has some dirt on Dan to help Karen win the race. So we start out on the streets because people are cheering for the Ravens, and Karen is putting up the decorations for her campaign. And then Brooke is crying at the apartment with Haley and Peyton because of what happened last night. And, they're shocked because she slept with Chris. And Payne keeps saying his name, so Brooke tells her to stop it, which is kind of funny. And then Haley points out that when her and Nathan left, she was pushing Chris out the door, so, wondering what happened. So Brooke explains that they were drinking, she was feeling lonely, and she was calling Lucas, but he wasn't answering. And then Chris came out of the bathroom, and he was so nice to her, so apparently that was enough. And he also said that her clothes were inspired, and Haley was surprised he said that.
I thought it was weird that she was calling Lucas. And he wouldn't answer. I feel like he would have.
Yeah, at least after some point.
Well, I mean, he was with Rachel. All he was doing was talking about Brooke. He would have answered.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just weird how they're going to put this in now.
Right.
Sort of blame him. Well, he didn't answer.
Mm-hmm. And then Brooke mentions too that she thinks that Chris might have said that her shirts made his pants feel tight, and she mentions again that she was drinking, but he said a lot of other things that were really nice about her. And she tells Haley to not look at her like that because she knows how charming he is. And Haley asks Brooke if Chris saying to her, and now she gets emotional and upset, feeling like a groupie.
I thought, yeah, that was funny. She goes, "You guys, I'm a groupie." It was hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then Payne asks if she talked to Lucas, and she's full on crying now, saying he hasn't answered her call still.
Well, why would he?
Right.
It's just weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird how she's gonna play the victim.
Right. And then she said that she's not gonna leave a message.
What did you like though when Chris came to the door?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was perfect timing, of course, for him.
Open the door and there he is.
Right. But one of the I forgot who on Drama Queens, but one of them pointed out that how did Lucas even walk into Brooke's bedroom in the apartment? Does he have a key, or was it a key outside under the rug, or
probably? It's the same way they all went into Nathan's.
Yeah, it was just that was a good point that they brought up, but yeah,
well, who knows, because Nathan and Haley left that door wide open for hours.
Yeah.
While they were, remember it was, I questioned why it was wide open like that. It's weird. I mean, do you just leave your door wide open?
No.
Me either.
And then I was surprised that Chris was generous enough to bring food with him for Brooke and him.
I thought it was weird that he was really going to show up the next day after what happened.
Yeah,
after Lucas saw them, you really thought Brooke wants to talk to you again?
He probably thought
that's what I thought was weird.
He probably thought that she would be upset again and that he could sleep with her again, probably.
Well, I think she learned her lesson.
Yeah, but not in his mind. He doesn't know that. Yeah, so then, he sees Payne and Haley there, so he's like, oh, I guess we'll have to share. And then that's when Brooke grabs the donuts for him and Haley shuts the door. I thought that was funny. And then there's a quick moment where Lucas is running and struggling because, with his meds when he gets to his house, and then he, sees a red door that he painted for Brooke still there. And then Brooke and Peyton are on the pier. And, because Peyton had her go walking with her to get her out of her mood. and clear her head. And besides, they have a less of a chance of Chris finding them if they're moving targets, Peyton says. And Brooke doesn't laugh, so Peyton says to Brooke that she knows that she thinks she's not trying to help, but she is. She just doesn't know what to say. And she reminds Brooke that she's always been the silver lining girl. And Brooke says that was before it was raining men in her apartment. And she admits she messed up, and Brooke assures her that she made a mistake and everybody makes them. And Brooke says, not like this. So also, I don't know why Lucas, I mean, I get why Lucas was upset, but at the same time, I don't, because they're not together. And then he was the one that cheated on her too with Peyton. So,
Because I think in his mind, they're together.
yeah.
And I think too, it's like one of those things where it's like you learn from it, like your past.
Yeah, but we know Lucas is going to repeat his past later on.
But I'm just saying, I mean, people could say the same thing about Nathan and Haley in season 5 of why was she overreacting when basically she went on freaking tour,
Right.
kissed Chris, like people, and like other people could be like, well, they could defend that by saying, well, they're, more mature now and more committed or what, like there's just so many things. And it's like Brooke and Lucas are more mature than they were in season 1. They didn't even really know. They didn't even know each other.
Right. Yeah.
So now that they do, and they both like kind of, I mean, in their own way, they both know what they want, which is each other, but they or she has a hard time saying it and accepting it. So there's that. Plus, if you really want Lucas so bad, why would you cheat on it? Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like for Brooke, like,
Mhm.
and again, and the other thing is, just because, he did it, it doesn't make it right.
Mm-hmm. And just before they went on that date too, that double date, she was, she couldn't stand Chris. So it was really surprising that she did sleep with him. Like that same night. Right? Yep.
Yeah, it was that night, yeah.
So it makes it even worse. But
where did Haley sleep then? Because
yeah, I thought about that too.
if Lucas walked in and it was just Brooke and Chris, where the heck was Haley in all this?
Because
it's only a 1 bedroom.
Well, wasn't she with Nathan? The last scene that she was in?
Yeah, but she wasn't gonna spend the night with him.
I know. I'm just saying maybe she spent out late with him, and then she came home. And by the time she came home, Chris was gone. Maybe I'm guessing, and Brooke was asleep, so she didn't know anything about it. Possibly.
Oh, I feel like she knew about it because I feel like Brooke woke up definitely when Lucas walked in, and then you can't go back to sleep after that.
Or maybe she was pretending because she was just embarrassed or something.
I just find it weird that Haley's not there.
Yeah. And maybe she just fell asleep easier too because she had been drinking. But yeah, so Payne just tells Brooke to talk to Lucas. Maybe he's more understanding than she thinks. And he's not a stranger to mistakes.
It's weird that Peyton would say that because she was part of it.
Yeah, I thought about that too.
I was like, really, Miss Peyton?
Mm-hmm. And then Brooke says Peyton can talk to him too. So I'm like,
why?
Okay, yeah. Because apparently she's good with the words and Payne and Lucas.
we know the last part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Payne says she will. And then Payne says that there's no promises and tells Brooke in the meantime to keep herself busy. So she just won't, just continue feeling guilty. But then she mentions about her clothes, saying at least she has that. And then Payne jokes about her wishing she could have said that last night, but realizes it's too soon. And then next, Nathan goes to see Chris at the studio. And Chris thinks he's only there because of him sleeping with Brooke. Yeah, because he assumed that Haley probably told him right away.
He's like, well, you're here to kick my ass because I slept with Brooke. And he goes, you slept with Brooke. Mm-hmm. And he goes, well, why else would you be here? He goes, I came to pay for Haley's time. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he just
I did like that he said that, Well, okay. Well, I did think it was weird that he was talking about like how Chris can't like stop himself and stuff. And it's like, first of all, Nathan, he never slept with Haley. Like,
I thought he meant like moving in on girls. I think that aren't
yeah,
really.
but it was just like, okay, he only kissed Haley. Like,
Mhm. And then um oh, and then I think Chris said that he likes to think of it as sleeping without the sleep. Um and then said it's true that Lucas walked in on them. And then Nathan asks if he's going to keep doing this evil crap for the rest of his life. And Chris asks what's so evil about it. It's two kids having fun. It's cool. Nathan says it's not cool if other people's feelings are involved. So I liked how he did stick up for Brooke because, we don't see them too often as like close friends, but he still stuck up for her.
yeah, but then Chris has to go a little further though, and say Brooke's not Haley, and then he said you don't even like Lucas, and it's like, and I
Mhm.
was surprised that like Nathan didn't like say yeah I do like because even though they might not be getting along, you don't want your enemy to know that. Like, it's none of
Mhm.
your enemy's business. So I thought
Mhm.
that was weird that, like, Nathan didn't stick up for Lucas in that moment of, like, "You don't know what you're talking about," like, because again, that's between the 2 of them, it's not between Chris and all of them.
Mhm.
So for him to say that, I just thought Nathan should have, at least said something like that. Instead of, "It's not about Lucas," like, what? Just
Mhm.
like, now you're just showing him, like, hey, like, you're just adding more of, like, for him to know about your life.
Right. And then, of course, Chris has to say, and the way he usually does, referring to himself, to think about how Chris feels because he broke his cardinal rule about sleeping with cheerleaders. He doesn't unless there's at least 3 of them.
Yeah.
And then Nathan tells Nathan not
Well,
to worry.
yeah, because he don't like Brooke because his type is singers.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought the best move was Nathan when he like
Mm-hmm.
goes up like
Like
fakes
fake,
punch,
yeah,
yeah, fake
yeah.
punches him, and then he goes,
Mm-hmm.
I like to think of that as hitting you without the hitting.
Yeah.
It
And I
was
liked
good.
how I liked how he went over that chair too. It made it even more funnier.
Mm-hmm.
Because they mentioned on the Drama Queens too that they liked how Tyler really went for it with the chair because they don't think that part was script, but he just like let him go for it, let himself just fall like that. And then Nathan leaves, and only after he's gone that's when Chris says that he didn't even give him his money.
Well, why would he after what he just
Yeah.
heard? Well,
Mm-hmm.
of course he's gonna be like focused on that and not on the money.
Yeah. And then Karen is being interviewed on the radio, and then they get a call,
Of course.
and but
Well,
it's
but, when he called himself Keith,
yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
what? I mean, okay, don't you think that people in town know about the Scott family? So for
Yeah.
him to say his name's Keith, it's like, how many are there in the town?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's that many. Plus, didn't he say he owned a body shop that I don't know, went under, I don't know. Maybe just a body shop or something. And it was like, how many Keiths that own a body shop are there in Drury Hill? It's like people know that, Dan.
Right. Well, I saw it as more of attacking Karen, like getting her hopes up, thinking that it's actually Keith for real
She
calling.
knows who that is, like whose voice that is.
No, I know. I'm saying he like tricked her when the announcer said it was Keith, so she has a second of thinking it's the real Keith
Yeah, until
until
he
she
speaks.
hears, Dan, and then she knows
Yeah.
it's like an
But
ambush.
then he uses Keith as who he is. Kind of
Yeah,
fake.
well, yeah, he had to keep going with the whole
Is that
charade.
yeah, it's annoying.
Yeah, and then then he brings up how she's unmarried and her business partner is married to her opponent, and
I
she's
thought I thought
yeah.
she was funny because she said that her business partner doesn't have a good taste in men or something, but it's a good thing she has a good taste in business. It was
Yeah.
good.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that makes Dan bring up her child out of wedlock. And, Karen says she likes to think of it as a single parent who is raising her child to be a responsible man, unlike the boy who fathered him.
That's the
That was
thing is
good.
like, shouldn't Karen have went after Dan on this radio show? Like, in politics, they always
Mhm.
go after each other. Like, what's the worst thing about you? And I'm gonna put it out there, even if it's not true. Well, that would be the easy thing for Dan is he abandoned his son
Mhm.
and wanted him to kill him a couple times.
Right. Well, I just saw it as Karen trying to be professional and not stoop to his level.
Yeah,
And
but I'm just saying in politics, that's what
Mhm.
they do.
Yeah, maybe if they were like on some type of debate, then maybe she probably would have done it. But she just didn't want to. She didn't want to lose her composure and look bad, like if she had a
Mhm.
temper. Because we
Yeah.
know she's gotten mad at him before, so we know how bad it can get. But
Yeah. Well, then when Dan is getting off the phone, then Deb was like, "What are you, 8 years old?" And it's like, mm-hmm. He's acting like it.
yeah, and then Dan says that's coming from a woman who cut the ass out of all his pants, which I thought was funny.
Yeah, and she goes, "Too bad the one in my life won't go away."
Mm-hmm. It just
I
reminded,
laughed at that.
yeah, it just reminded me of Mean Girls when what's her name? Janice cut out the nipple area of Regina's tank top. Have you seen Mean Girls?
A long, long time ago.
Okay, well, you might remember where she ended up still wearing it, and it became like the new trend at school, and
No.
all the girls started doing that. Oh, well, that's all it reminded me of when he said that about she did to his pants, and then he says to her, "Good one," but before she starts getting all high and mighty, or in her case, just high, maybe she should think about the deal they made. She's supposed to be supporting him in public. And Deb asks, what could he possibly do to her that he hasn't already done?
Then Nathan walks in. Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah,
And
and he
then,
goes,
yeah.
"Who said anything about you?" It's like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So she just can't get away from him. And then Nathan goes into his room where Dan follows him, saying he wanted to see how the star player was doing before the
So,
game.
do you remember when Lucas was living with Dan and they had more in common because they were talking about books and stuff and like literature but then again, all Dan can do with Nathan is talk about basketball. It's like they have nothing else in common besides basketball.
Right. Yep.
Where Dan and Lucas had more, I would say.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just like, what? Like again, this is your favorite kid, but you don't have much in common with him, and he also can't stand you.
Yep.
Because then some of the scouts and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only thing on his mind.
Yep. And then he asks if anything is, bugging him, and he says,
Just
"Just you."
you.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. So
Yeah.
when Dan walks away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deb is standing right there, and Nathan loudly, not quietly and secretive,
Mm-hmm.
but he then says it doesn't feel like we're getting out. Feels like we're staying. And I was like, Dan just walked out of your room. Do you really think that he didn't he just kept walking? Like if Deb isn't following him and she's gonna stay with Nathan, like he loves knowing the details and the gossip and stuff. So I just thought it was weird. I'm like, there's no way that Dan is just gonna like leave those two to talk. I mean, especially when they're on the same team kind of thing. So I just
Mm-hmm.
didn't really think that Dan of all people just walk away. But I'm like, they said it pretty quick. Like he just walked away.
Yeah. Didn't they kind of see each other when he went out or
Well,
something?
when he walked out, but then we didn't see Dan anymore. So then that's when he said it. And I'm like, but he's right out there.
Right. Yeah, they just do that on shows.
I know, but it's Dan. Like, you know dang well he is listening somehow.
Mm-hmm. You know, with him putting all the cameras in the dealership, I'm surprised he hasn't put any in the house.
He
Or
probably
like,
does.
or like microphones or something.
He probably has one in everyone's room in the
Mhm.
hallway.
Yeah.
Ugh, I would not want to live in that house.
Because on Drama Queens, they point out and like kind of joke about Dan putting trackers on people, and that's how he knows where people are and where he goes to see them.
Well, yeah, he always shows up right when at the right moment. It's like, really?
Yeah.
How do you know that person was there?
Mm-hmm. And then Brooke goes to the store to see her design still in the window, and her manager tells her that she's got a real eye for fashion. Her designs
I
are going to
thought
be
this
a
was
hit.
sad.
Yeah. Yeah, because Brooke is so excited and tells her manager she has no idea how much she needed good news right now.
Yeah, she
And-
asked, when does she get paid? How much?
Mhm.
Oh my God. And then the lady was like, since you work for the company, it's our designs and it belongs to the store. But okay, but then she said that you get the only thing like you get is your discount, your employee discount. And I was like, what? Like she designed those and all she gets is a
Mhm.
disc. Don't you think that if she was making them that she could keep a pair
Mhm.
for herself? Like how would they even know that she made a pair for herself?
Right, yeah, the discounts is like the minimum of what she should get as an employee, but yeah, designing she should get some kind of cut. But yeah, apparently she signed a waiver when she took the job,
Well,
but
she
Brooke
said she
says
didn't read it. Yeah.
yeah, which was bad on Brooke's part because you should always read everything before you sign anything. But yeah,
I
either
will
way,
say though, it is hard because a lot of times they're like, "Oh, well, you can't start unless you fill this out." But then it's like, "Oh, but you also start right now, so you gotta." You don't have. A lot of times they don't let you have time to read anything. It's just you just fill it out, and okay, that's
right. Well,
probably what she did.
yeah, well, lucky for me, they did give me time to read everything before I fully took the job.
That's good for you.
Um, yeah, it was a long read too, so I was like getting bored after a while. But I have to read this. I'll tell myself I have to read this. I'm not gonna move on if I don't read everything because something might come up later and I won't remember. So, but yeah, so then Brooke throws the clothing because she picked up a piece of clothing from the table and she just threw it over her shoulder and walked out. And then Peyton goes to see Lucas at his house because Brooke said to talk to him, and he's painting over the red door with black paint.
Can I just say he's not a good painter?
Yeah, I don't know if it was the paint too. It didn't look like good paint, or he wasn't using enough. It was just like bad streaks. But yeah,
I was like, not a good painter.
yeah. It just looked like the paint was diluted or something. But and then I could see too. You can tell when they did the other side shot of the door, like you could tell he was painting on glass, so the camera could get his hands and everything.
Yeah, because
So
that
I
door
don't know.
is not glass.
Yeah. So I mean, I can see like the vision they were going for, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't really look that good. And then yeah. So
Well,
she acts.
they could have just zoomed in on the paintbrush going over the door
Yeah, that would
as
have
the
been
end of
enough.
it. As yeah.
Yeah. So Peyton asks if he's painting while angry because that's original because that's what something she does. And Peyton mentions doesn't want to talk about it. Um, and for what it's worth, Brooke feels awful. And then she says she knows he's upset, and he says he's not really
So,
upset. He's disappointed.
but he is upset. Like,
Yeah.
what? What do you mean disappointed? You're upset. Like, let's call
Mhm.
it what it is.
Right.
But
And
okay,
then
but then Peyton though, because she said that Brooke made a mistake, kind of like we did, and she forgave us, and I was like, I mean, for Peyton to say that to Lucas, I was like, ooh,
mhm,
like really, Peyton?
yeah.
It's only what a year ago.
Mhm. Yeah, and then he says he made a mistake thinking that they were meant to be with each other, and he won't make it again. And then in class later, Tim tells Nathan guys from the team are going to get tattoos after school.
Okay, they are really.
Right.
Like
'Cause
Tim of all people.
mhm. Yeah, I can't imagine that he'd be able to handle the pain, but Nathan says he thought that they were just shaving their
Okay,
heads.
I'm not gonna lie. I would like to see that scene.
Yeah. And then Tim tells Nathan that he's the first to hear about the tattoos because it was his idea, Tim's idea. And Nathan tells him it's stupid, and Tim laughs and says it's crazy stupid. And he puts his hand up for a high five, but Whitey calls on him. And then Lucas whispers to, oh, next scene, Lucas whispers to Peyton and says that he thought about it, and she's right. He's going to talk to Brooke because they're in class.
Yeah, it's
And
okay. And Whitey's the teacher.
yeah, but it's just kind of funny how whenever they do these scenes, like they like get caught like a lot later than 'cause they talk for a good minute until they're usually caught. But if it was in real life, I feel like you get caught right away. But yeah. So Payne points
Well,
out
and
that
they always talk so loudly.
hmm well, they're whispering here, but yeah, usually they're talking so loud. And then Payne points out that Brooke's not there and she never misses a game day, so she must be in really bad shape.
But I
And
did notice that Nathan was trying not to watch Peyton and Lucas talk, but at
Mhm.
one point he did look up at Lucas. I was like,
Mm.
because I think on the paper, like he's not supposed to. It's supposed to be their scene, but the problem is he's right there. So what are you gonna do? It's just kind of awkward. You're like, okay, this is their time to speak, but yet I'm right here in camera.
Yeah, I didn't even notice him, but
I did because
Bevan.
I was like, because I wanted to see how realistic it is. Because if somebody in front of you and somebody next to you are talking to each other, you're gonna be listening to what they're saying.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to see how realistic it is.
Yeah.
And it was kind of realistic because he was trying not to pay attention, but he did look up at one time.
Mhm. And then Bevan raises her hand and calls Whitey, old coach guy. And Whitey tells her it's Coach Durham, and
She
kisses
don't
her.
okay, why is she calling him coach? Like, why are they saying Coach Durham when I mean, if he's a teacher, they all gotta call him coach?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
I
we had coaches as teachers. We
mhm.
didn't go around calling them coaches, like,
Right,
no,
because
that was
they weren't our coach,
right,
so
that was the basketball coach, that was a football coach, they weren't my coach, so I'm not gonna call them coach. Yeah, their team called them coach, but we didn't. We called them mister,
yeah. Because I mean, I could see Bevan doing that just because we know how she is, but
but everybody else in the class shouldn't. I mean, except for the team.
Bevan has a rare smart moment because she mentions a play that ends up turning out to be good because Whitey actually likes it.
It was
Um,
funny because he's like, "Stop," like, like, talking and
mhm,
stuff, Bevan, and then he goes, wait a minute." He had
yeah.
that thought, it was funny.
hmm And then the bell rings. So then the hallway, Tim tells Nathan to not leave him hanging about the tattoos. And then Nathan walks over to his locker to find it decorated with a basketball hoop that has a flower crown on it and a ball hanging at the bottom of the net. And Haley asks, what does he think of it? And he says that he thinks it's still weird that she's a cheerleader and points out the purple flowers and thinks it looks great. And Haley says, so does he. So then Nathan holds his tie and says it's Whitey's new rules. And ties are on game day and run until you puke. And Haley asks, won't that ruin the tie? But then she asks, she's gonna go because she knows he has to focus on the game. And then while looking at the locker, saying it's mandatory, she tells him he's going to do great tonight. And Nathan says he'll see. Then Lucas walks up to his locker, not liking the way it's decorated. It even has a like 3 rainbow flags on it. And Rachel probably just I guess that's what she just thought of. But
Well, then Rachel comes up, and she's,
mhm,
"Guess who decorated your locker?" And he goes, "Let me guess, you were Tim." But
right.
my thing is that their little draft thing, that their fantasy thing that they have to decorate that person's locker?
Um I don't know because we didn't see Bevan decorate skills, but
Yeah, but
Oh wait, he's not on the team. I forgot. That's
we
later.
have Rachel who was his
Mhm.
fantasy, and we have
Right.
Haley doing it. So
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for Haley to do it, but Rachel, I don't know.
um yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was funny though.
Yeah. And then that's when Peyton
Kate
walks
comes
up.
up.
Yep. And says it could be worse. It could, his locker could say the D word on it, and then the bell rings. So the three of them go their separate ways when Brooke walks out of the shadows, supposedly, because she was right there. But she heard and saw everything about Lucas's locker. And then she goes to her locker after making sure the coast is clear and opens it to find out that Lucas decorated the inside of her locker.
I have an issue with this.
Yeah.
What?
No, I was asking what is it?
Oh, do you remember at the beginning of this school year that when Haley and Lucas walked up, right? Nathan said, like, you should have used your stage name because then they wouldn't be next to each other. Because it's just like our school, it went by alphabetical. Well, if it goes by alphabetical, why is Brooks a couple down from Lucas?
Yeah, I
She
didn't even
is
think of
a
that.
D and he's an S. Like they at least Peyton should be like right next to him because she's Sawyer. But
Yeah.
Brooke, what when that scene came, I was like, their lockers are right there because you see the little hoops. What?
Yeah, I
But
didn't
then
even think of that.
Nathan kind of criticized Haley for it, and I'm like, they're all right there.
Hmm. Yeah, they should have had her go on at least the opposite side of the hallway for hers.
Like we had.
Hmm. But yeah, so she sees all the pictures of them together and even the writing on her mirror because he wrote Lucas and Brooke forever. And she gets upset and closes it. So we know that she feels like she's, still did a horrible thing. But if I were her, I would take it as he forgave her, like his way of saying it or showing it.
Huh?
Because she still feels upset about sleeping with Chris and making Lucas feel bad.
How did Lucas you said Lucas forgave her?
What with you think with this gesture that it looks like that he forgave her for sleeping with Chris?
Mm-mm. I think that the Lucas and Brooke forever was put in her locker before, like when they were like
Oh,
trying to, yeah. And it's just a memory of her like opening her locker and seeing it the next day, being like, "That's right."
oh,
Like
okay. I
I think
didn't.
he did it at the beginning of the school year. There's no way in heck he's gonna do it right now because he doesn't believe that.
I'm confused because it looks like he did the same time that Haley and Rachel did it with the other lockers.
No, this was on the inside though. It was written.
Oh, are you talking about the writing was there since the beginning?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you meant the whole thing.
Well, I'm just saying that for like, because no, I think he did that at the beginning of the school year. I don't think, which is only a couple weeks ago. I don't think he did that just now because he doesn't forgive her.
Oh, okay. And then outside in the courtyard, Peyton finds Haley and asks if she's seen Brooke. And Haley says not since this morning, but she was being late. And then Payne says she normally wouldn't think twice about skipping because it's game day. And then Haley asks if she's talked to Lucas yet, and Payne says no, but they have to figure out a way to make her. And Haley asks Payne if she wants her help now, and Payne asks why she's so surprised. She's the resident expert on making things better after royally screwing them up. And then Haley gets annoyed by that comment, so Payne tells her it was a joke. Haley's still annoyed, but Payne asks if she has any ideas, and Haley says there might be one thing. Then we go back to the station where both Dan and Deb are there now for his interview, and I guess Deb. And the interviewer,
I could tell that the radio host or whatever, he was like uncomfortable, and just the look on his face just kind of said it all. He was just like, didn't want to be there, didn't want to interview Dan and Deb. Like just the looks he was given was priceless. Cause it's like, oh, you'd be happy to do that, right? Not him. I don't think he's voting for Dan.
Right. Yeah, I'm surprised that he didn't end up telling people what he saw, Deb writing off the cue card that Dan obviously wrote for her. Because,
Mhm.
that would get around. But, yeah, so.
So again, Dan, the only thing Dan does is go back to his basketball days.
Mm-hmm.
Because, oh, you'll remember me from my days in basketball. I'm like, that's the only thing you ever say. I mean, really?
Yeah. Yeah, you can just tell that he's trying to make himself look like the great husband because, he has Deb say that Dan is everything to her and she trusts him with her heart
But what
and her
about
son.
what about the kid that he abandoned? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
come that's not brought up?
Yeah, because that's like common knowledge in the town at this point.
They both have the same last name.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing, is if Lucas would have went by Roe, it would have been okay for Dan because he really doesn't have to say he's his or look bad because nobody will know unless they know the truth. But
Mm-hmm.
any citizen could just think that that's Karen's kid. But the fact that it has his last name Scott, I mean, everyone knows that.
Right. And then the interviewer, his name is Dave, actually, because now he says it. And he tells Deb that was beautiful. He thinks he's going to cry. So I'm wondering if like Dan also gave him a cue card because he knows that was all fake.
Yeah, probably. But
And
talking about family values and stuff, like really?
yeah. And then Karen was listening to the radio before this interview. And then she turns it off when Dave said that he was going to cry and says, "Me too."
Mhm.
And then that's when Lucas walks in.
I thought she was gonna say that she was gonna puke, not cry.
Oh yeah. Either one would have made sense. But yeah, so Lucas walks in and he's all bummed out about Brooke. Because Karen thinks it's about the game, but it's not. And
Well, she knows because she said it's obvious because the door is
mhm,
it's black.
mhm,
So she knows it's about Brooke.
yeah. And then yeah, she tells Lucas it's her loss. There's a tons of
I did like when she said it's her loss because that's what you would say to your son.
mhm. And then she says a customer once told her that the best way to get over someone is to get under someone. And she's been putting together envelopes for her campaign. So
That's
when she's in the middle of licking one, she puts it together what that actually means. So she takes it back, as a mom. But she tells Lucas she knows he's going through a rough time. But at the game tonight, because basketball makes him always feel better. So just focus on that. And then just to not let his heart get in the way of the one thing he loves the most. And then because she did mention cake about making that feel better, making him feel better too. But that was just like a segue to Brooke because she's also eating cake at home when Payne and Haley walk in, seeing her in this state. And Payne tells Brooke it's going to be okay. She has too much to live for. Now, this kind of reminded me of, I don't even know, season 5 or 6, probably 5, because Payne ends up saying the same thing to Haley later on. She has too much to live for, so I just remember that scene. But they approach her slowly, and Brooke acts with cake in her mouth. Like, what's up with them? And Haley says that they missed her at school, and Brooke just says she couldn't handle it. And then she asks them how she is going to face Lucas if she can't even face the locker that he decorated for her.
So how is Brooke going to school and everything when her parents aren't even in town? She didn't emancipate herself.
Well, I don't know. She was living in a house by herself, so I guess the same rule applies here.
It's weird because I'm like, how?
Mm-hmm.
How can your parents be across country
Right.
and you're living in an apartment?
Mm-hmm.
Just doesn't make sense.
And then Payne tells Brooke again just to tell Lucas how she feels. And then Haley tells Brooke that Lucas cares about her, but all he ever hears about is non-exclusive, and not all he ever sees is boys on her wall and in her bed, and that's not how she spent her summer.
Yep. Apparently she was writing letters to him.
Mm-hmm. And Haley only knows that because apparently she was what was she doing?
Snooping. I'm just kidding. She was, I don't know. She was, I don't even know. Something to do with the dress, remember? Because she was talking about her space and everything.
Yeah. And then Payne says the point is to stop hiding and just to talk to Lucas.
Yeah, but Lucas doesn't want to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
Like if she walked up to him, he'd walk away.
Right. And then on the river court, Lucas is playing when Dan comes up, clapping.
Yeah.
And then
The whole thing for him is just pass the ball to Nathan.
Mhm.
And then what I thought was funny was when Lucas said, mental note, Nathan's daddy wants me to pass it to him.
Mhm.
It was funny.
Yeah. And then I thought it was kind of funny how Dan told Lucas that he plays good when he's playing against nobody.
It really was funny.
Mhm. And then he has to ask Lucas how his heart is, if the medication is slowing him down. And Lucas tells him not to worry about it. And Dan asks if that's what he told Whitey. And then he sees that Lucas hasn't told him yet.
And he knows why, because Whitey wouldn't let him play. Because
Mhm.
he could drop dead.
Yeah.
But then, again, he brings up the Nathan and the ball. It's like, oh my
Mhm.
God, just go away. But again, this thing, like Dan just shows up everywhere.
Mhm. And then Lucas throws the basketball at the blackboard, so of course Dan has to mention that he missed again before walking away.
And Lucas takes it to
Mhm.
heart. It's like, it's Dan.
Yeah.
Don't take it so seriously.
Mhm. And then Chris goes to Dan's house because I guess
Oh
he
my God, this.
invited him.
Oh my, yeah. So Dan invited Chris, right?
Mhm.
And Chris, why would he accept? I mean, he was there for the money, but he thought he was only there for the money. Well, why would Dan call you to pay you? Like, that was Nathan's deal with you. That's what I thought was weird. I'm like, okay.
Maybe he no, because I was gonna say maybe he said that Nathan told him to pay Chris, but he probably doesn't even know. Wait,
But Dan didn't know because he said,
yeah,
oh, what am
what I
I
was gonna
paying
say.
for?
Yeah, yeah. So it doesn't make sense why he would do that. I mean, Chris. I mean, he does know that Chris is the reason why his marriage blew up, but
Yeah. Because he
just the
was like,
timing of
oh,
it isn't. The timing of it doesn't make sense.
no. But I mean, it was a funny scene, but just didn't make sense of why he would be there when he didn't even know why he's there. But yeah, he's like, he goes, I'm practically your biggest fan. And he's like, oh, you got good taste in music. And he's like, no. He goes, I'm a fan of how you screwed up my son's marriage. I was trying to accomplish what you accomplished with one kiss I was trying to do for months. I'm like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. But then Chris said he's a good kisser. Like what?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Um, but did you see that like Chris had a turn when it came to Dan? Like he was just kind of like done with Dan, like everyone
Mm-hmm.
else is. I was like,
Yeah.
which is funny because you would think these two would kind of be on the same team, but was just like not wanting to say anything after that to Dan.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, so is he protecting Nathan and Haley in his own way
Maybe.
by not telling Dan too much?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, that's when he said, or oh my God, no, that's when Dan said that like you're into like you took Nathan's wife. You can have mine. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then he said she's a MILF.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
That's on brand for him.
Yeah. So that's when he said he just needs the money. Nathan owes him, and that's when he said, "Oh, what am I paying for?" It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what? And that's the thing. I thought Nathan. So Nathan isn't working at the dealership then.
I guess not. I don't know what
So
he's doing.
Nathan reverted himself back to the beginning of season 1, Nathan, where his dad paid for everything, and that was it. Remember? Because he did have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And he was growing up, and then now he took 10 steps back.
Yeah, I guess because he didn't see the point in it. But
Well, I don't know. You're going to graduate soon. You need money.
mm-hmm. And then but I thought it was funny how before Chris walked in, Dan opened the door, and that's when the red vase dropped from the top of it, and he catches it
Oh yeah.
and says it's a little gift from the wife. So he put that there for for Deb to get hit with, but he almost got hit with it himself. But so I guess he forgot he put it up there. I don't know, but then and then Dan like he made a joke, but he at the same time he made himself look bad because he said that Chris reminds him of himself. He might know his mother, because he has so many sons, like acting like he has more. But then Dan tells Chris that before he goes, maybe he wants to talk about making some real money. So this gets Chris's attention now. And then the locker room, Nathan tells Lucas he heard what happened Saturday night, and all the stuff with Brooke is going to make him play, badly. And if so, he should take himself out of the game. And Lucas says, thanks for the concern, but how about he mind his own business? So I thought it was funny that that's what Lucas said because he was getting himself into Nathan's business with Haley when that happened.
Uh-huh. And see, all Nathan cares about is the game. He doesn't
Mhm.
really care about Lucas in this moment, where
Mhm.
Lucas did.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "Oh, you're one to talk," and he goes, "My game's just gotten better." It's like, oh my god. But remember, Nathan always said Lucas was bad.
Mhm. Yeah. So, and he tells him to fix it. So Lucas tells him that his marriage sucks, so he should fix it.
Fix it. Fix
Mhm.
it. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god. Then back for fix it.
Yep.
Feel like you could have that on replay. Fix it. Fix
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah. And then Nathan says to Lucas that he'll give him the same brilliant advice he gave him when Chris kissed Haley.
Just forgive her, man.
Yeah. She loves you.
He goes, doesn't it? He goes, doesn't help much, does it?
Mhm. Yeah.
Which is true, but it is funny how it just went right back to Lucas.
Mhm. And then in the gym, Mouth and Gigi are at their place to be the announcers, and
And
there's
Gigi is so funny.
yeah, and there's a live audio stream. So Brooke's listening from home when Mouth says it has to be killing you to not be here tonight, and then he says he's going to try to talk to the players before the game. When Gigi says she's going to hide in the locker room to look at them after. So this is funny from her character until you remember how old she is in real life and
Yeah.
think about if a guy was going to do the same thing for the cheerleaders and it'd be really gross. But yeah, then we see Haley.
But it is funny.
Yeah.
Like Gigi is funny.
Mm-hmm. And so Haley goes to see Chris where now? Was it the studio or
Yes.
okay,
It is
because
Peyton's there, yep.
okay. Yeah, because Peyton only was there to, give Haley a ride. But yeah, so Chris is like, well, and Haley tells him to shut up and says that she can't believe, he was with Brooke. And Chris asks if she's jealous, but he swears he thought about her the whole time, so that was gross. And then Haley tells him, he's a jerk, and Chris tells her to be careful because because that's what Brooke said right before they hooked up. So just making it worse.
And that's when Peyton comes in and slaps him.
And he's like, "What's up, Blondie?" Because doesn't really care to say her actual name.
So how did you like how they walked out?
Well, I liked how Payne smiled at first before hitting him, like, making him not really suspect it. But it was funny how they both walked out like in sync because they
And
first
looked
took a
at him.
at the same time. Yeah, that was funny.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the road, Payne, Haley thanks Payne for the ride, and she says no problem because, she just needed a ride and she got to, to slap Chris, so it's a win-win. And then Haley says sometimes she feels like she wants to slap her, and Payne tells her she knows she's been a bitch, and Haley says to her she hasn't been that bad, and Haley
I
says,
like when
or
she
Payne
said that.
says,
Yeah, I like when she said,
yeah,
Brooks call me PMS, Peyton Marie Sawyer. That was
yeah,
funny.
mm-hmm. And Payne explains to Haley that she's just tired of everyone leaving, and they all have really great reasons, but it still hurts. And she guess she's been taking her anger out on her because she's the only one that's come back. And then in the locker room, Lucas secretly takes his heart meds in an empty row of lockers and then goes over to his locker to secretly put them in his book bag, but it wasn't so secretive. And then Nathan is having his ankle wrapped by a medic because apparently he must have sprained it or something before. And then that's when he takes off the chain with his wedding ring and put in his locker. So, do we see him even put it on the chain?
I don't know.
Because I can't remember. I don't remember him putting it on. I don't know. Maybe somebody else can remember and tell us. But and I don't know why they chose now to show him take it off before the game. Like, I don't know. Maybe he didn't want Haley to see it. But then Chris enters the school, and then down the hall he sees Bevan, Rachel, and another girl talking to each other.
3 cheerleaders. Oh my
Yep.
God.
His fantasy right there.
Yeah, he goes, God loves Chris Keller.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
And then he talks to Rachel, asking if she's Rachel. And he tells her she just made his to-do list. Ew. And she says he's on hers too, under make fun of pathetic old guys combing after high school girls. And Bevan, the other girl, laugh and then tells Chris that she doesn't talk to losers. And Chris tells her she made an exception with Lucas. And then points out she's a girl he's using to make Brooke jealous. And he tells her to have fun with that. So then Bevan waves and tells him bye as he walks away and then tells Rachel sorry. And then in the locker room, Tim shows
Oh my God.
his tattoo on his back.
And Nathan's like, nice tramp stamp, Tim.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of funny because Haley has the same tattoo. And then he says, "Isn't know what's worse? The fact that he
Wait,
got."
well, she doesn't have the same one.
I know. I'm just saying the location of it all. And then he says, "Isn't know what's worse? The fact that he got a tattoo above his ass, or that it's of a naked baby angel." And that's when Tim says it's a cherub. And then asks, "What did Nathan get?" And he says he just shaved his
Shaved
head.
head.
Yep.
That was funny.
Yep. And that was funny too when Whitey walks in, tells Tim to put his clothes back on.
Yeah. And then he has a new number.
Mm-hmm. Apparently. Because
So
Tim,
he got 2 tattoos then.
yeah, because he said he got his number 55 to support
I
the
was
team.
like, so you got 2 tattoos?
And then didn't even show Nathan both of them because, he was making it a big thing.
Yeah, well, because he said he was showing Nathan that he got his number, but all he
But he
was
wasn't.
showing, he was showing something
Yeah.
else. Oh,
Yeah,
that
so
was weird.
at first I thought he was like making it like as a cover up, but it didn't make sense.
Yeah. Did you see he got number 0?
Mm-hmm.
Who has that number?
Dim, apparently.
What?
Dim does, apparently. DIM.
But who had it before?
I don't know. We know it's not Jake.
What?
I don't know. I said we know it's not Jake.
How do you know?
Well, wasn't his number something else? I can't remember.
I thought it was 0.
Uh,
I thought Jake's number was 0.
well, if it was a long time until they gave it away, but let me see. 00. So was that Tim's? Oops. Was Tim 00 now?
I think so.
Okay, so then yeah, it's Jake's old number apparently.
Was it like a nod of like he's gone?
I guess since it's a new year, that's makes it available to give out again, I guess. I don't know.
But if Tim already has his number for this
Mhm.
year,
Yeah.
it's weird that in the middle of the season they're gonna.
Well, it's the beginning of the season.
But they've already had. Was this the first game?
Yeah, because the other thing was like a pre thing.
Oh, this is weird.
Yeah.
Because normal schools don't have that.
Maybe they just did it for the joke with a tattoo. I don't know. But yeah, so Whitey tells the guys that usually before the first game of the year, he tells his players to get out there and do their best. But
It was sad though, because he said that for the seniors, this is their last year to play. So make
yeah.
the most. And he said that it's going to be the same for him because he's leaving too when they leave. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
And did you see Nathan's face? It was like, he was all bummed out. I'm like, Nathan, but what would that have to do with you?
Mm-hmm.
You won't be here next year.
Yeah.
But then Nathan tells Lucas, like, don't screw it up for Whitey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I guess he just, like him and Whitey just like want to actually win this and make it like the best season yet.
Well, of course Nathan does. He wants to play college.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to win. They're not going to pick a losing team. Like, they're not going to go after somebody that's on a losing team.
Mm-hmm. And then we go back to the gym where the cheerleaders are actually using their pom-poms, but only like for half of it because they drop them and do the rest of it without them. And then the mascot even slides across the floor while they cheer him on from each side. And Mouth is announcing, and the boys all make their entrance, except Lucas is in slow-mo, along with Nathan's. Then apparently Chris is there to sing the national anthem, and Mouth isn't happy to say this.
What I thought was weird was that Tim is actually a starter.
Oh, I didn't even notice.
Because they were doing the starters. They only said 5 people. And I was like, Tim's a starter? I get Nathan and Lucas, but I'm like, huh?
And then Chris walks out and ends up saying that this goes out to all your girlfriends to the team, which doesn't make sense because it's the national anthem.
Well, then he goes, you know who you are. What?
Yeah. Yeah, Chris is just a big womanizer, but he like acts like he's all like he actually gets the women when he doesn't in real life. But
And then Lucas goes, I hate that guy. It's like,
mhm.
listen to the anthem.
Yeah.
And
then,
Nathan's not even paying attention to Lucas.
Mm-hmm. And then like a flag is dropped from the ceiling, like making it all dramatic for Chris now. And then outside, Dan is waiting for Deb. When she comes walking up, he asks where she's been. They need to make an entrance as a couple. So he goes, it doesn't seem like he's been going to the games lately, but I guess he really like wants to.
Yeah, but you said this is the first game of the season.
Yeah, it just feels like it's been a while since he's been there, but
it's been a while since they played.
Yeah. And then I guess he wants Deb because Deb isn't usually there some of the time. But I guess he just wants to make it look like they're like a strong couple for the election, but she's saying that she was cleaning up shards of glass from the vase that fell from the door that nearly killed her.
So she got it.
Yep. And then she says, according to the radio station, Karen's making quite a comeback in the polls. Apparently, a lot of people think he comes across as egotistical.
I like when she said maybe she'll win after all.
Yeah. And Dan tells her the vase must have hit her pretty hard. And then Dan even grabs her arm, saying that the vase must. Oh, yeah. I wrote that twice. Yeah. So before telling her that, he grabbed her arm really hard. And then he tells her to stick out her chest and try to look pretty. The public's waiting. She yanks her arm back and walks inside. And then in the gym, the team is lining up when Lucas sees Chris in the bleachers. And then he like sees the image of Brooke making out with him and hanging all over him. Then the game starts and Lucas is a couple of seconds late because he's distracted from Chris.
I like when Nathan said, quit looking at Keller. We know he can score.
Yeah. And then Lucas misses a basket and the other team scores again. And then later we see, Nathan and Lucas making a basket, and they almost get another one, but the ball gets stuck in between the hoop and the backboard. And then Mouth mentions that Lucas isn't looking too good, while Gigi says, "Oh, he's looking good." And then Brooke is at home and decides to take her "How I Spent My Summer Vacation" pictures down, except leaving for the picture of her and Lucas, meaning she decided that she just wants only him. And then with the camera focus on the picture, it segues to Lucas at the game. Lucas
Oh,
is looking
this was
over.
funny.
Yep.
Because Nathan throws him the ball, and then
Mm-hmm.
why did Lucas step away from it? Like it was dodgeball and he didn't want to get hit. I was like, he's passing you the ball. And he like that. Like I was like, the ball's coming to you, which is where it's supposed to go, and you're moving from it. I was like,
Well,
what? What kind of
well,
basketball is this?
well, he did that on purpose so it would hate Chris.
It
Yeah,
was
because
just kind of stupid for Lucas.
well, no, because he purposely stepped right in front of Chris and then tells Nathan that he's open, so that when Nathan would throw the ball, he timed it perfectly enough so by the time he got out of the way, it would just go straight to Chris.
Well,
So he,
stupid for the whole audience. I'm saying that we're there.
yeah.
But I did like when Nathan said, that was the best movie made all night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even though he's kind of on okay terms with him, but he knows, that could be at least some karma for what he did with Haley. But then, yeah, but Whitey doesn't like that move because he throws his clipboard down.
But then they
And
lose.
yep.
But then there's Dan in the locker room. Like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Whitey walks in first, but then I guess goes into his office, and then Dan comes in clapping, of course. He's mentioning about the team being not so undefeated anymore, and Nathan tells him to get out. It's not his locker room anymore, and he should just find a job as a janitor. And Dan tells Nathan that his 16 points were impressive. The scouts are thrilled, especially the deaf and blind ones. And then tells Nathan that, what a joke, and all the boys are too. And Nathan tells him that, he says his mistake, it seems like his mistake is a punchline. And then Nathan tells him he's the punchline. So that's when he pushes Nathan up against the lockers. And that's when Whitey walks in, telling him
With
to get
the
out.
bat. I love it.
Yeah.
Protecting his boys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he tells Dan to get out before they have to carry him out. And then he says, "Oh, for one, didn't keep up the good work." And then Brooke is waiting outside the door for Lucas, but then Rachel comes running up behind him, and they all kind of look at each other until Lucas asks Rachel for a ride, and then they walk away, and Brooke can only watch
That's
them.
the thing is he was never going to talk to Brooke. That's why every time Pete in the whole episode kept saying it, I'm like, he's not going to go for it.
Right. And then in Rachel's car, she says for her to be, wants her to be the first to say great game, but they really sucked. And Lucas says his head wasn't in it. And Rachel says she knows. It was in Brooke's bedroom watching her ride Chris Keller. And that was too much. And then she says she's not the only one of those people who likes to say, "I told you so." Then says, "Who is she kidding? She loves it." So she tells him she told him. And then she tells Lucas he needs to move on. And he asks, what to her. And she says to whatever makes him happy. And then
she is not hooking up with him.
Mm-hmm.
But then she kicks him out of the car.
Yep. Yeah, because she finally has respect for herself, not to be used by him.
Well, it's
just
because of what Chris said.
Yeah.
So Chris does have a way to get to women, apparently.
Mm-hmm. And then she tells him she'll see him at school and drives off.
Mm-hmm.
And then back at school, Brooke is alone on the bleachers when Peyton walks up, saying that doesn't like the face of someone who had a good talk with Lucas. And then Brooke tells Peyton that it didn't go well, and he left with Rachel.
So I liked that Peyton wanted to get her out of there and think of something else for a second.
Mm-hmm. But she did say that Lucas didn't realize what he had when they were together. Like, that's kind of, you know, controversial for her to say. But, because like Brooke's just trying to feel insecure with Rachel because Rachel goes after what she wants and Brooke doesn't even know what she wants until it's too late. And, Payne says that nobody can take anything from you unless you let them, which is true. And then, they go to the mall. But first we see Haley waiting for Nathan outside the door. And she tells him he had a good game tonight, and he asks if she was watching the same game. And she says that he made 30 points, and he corrects her that it was only 16. And then he asks if she waited for him, and she says, yeah, she wanted to make sure he was okay.
Yeah. Then he said he was going to walk home,
Mm-hmm.
clear his head and stuff.
Yeah.
And then she said, call me later if you want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, he calls her.
Yeah, after they were going their separate ways.
I like the scene.
But I didn't notice that she flipped open her phone just to see who was calling. So, like, she answered the phone just to see who was calling, but she didn't look at the tiny screen on top of, the flip phone like we used to do.
Maybe it didn't say.
Yeah, I'm thinking it would be with that kind of phone, but I just thought that was weird. But anyways, yeah, so she smiles when she sees it's him calling, and she turns around and walks towards him to walk home with him.
Well, he like nodded, like, come on, let's go.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
then later,
so I have a question though. What are they doing all night?
I don't know, because they can't walk forever, but
well, because we know they're not gonna do anything like sleep together, because we know when the first next time they sleep together, we know when that is, and it's not this. So I'm like, they're really only gonna talk? Like,
yeah, I guess they're
these
just
two?
Mm-hmm. I guess they're just having, long talks, maybe deep conversations, just reconnecting that way, which is good for them.
Yeah, because they've never done that.
Mm.
All they did was have fights and then get married, and ever since then it's been downhill.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's good that they're just kind of going back to the beginning of how relationships usually are. And then later Brooke and Payne are at the mall, and they have pillowcases with them so they can
So what I
clothes.
thought was weird. So like when by the time you get to Nathan and Haley's scene, I was like, so Lucas got in the car with Rachel. All that happened, and Nathan's just now walking out.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it happened in 5 minutes. I don't know.
Like, couldn't they have had Lucas with Rachel and like they leave? Then it goes to like Brooke, then it goes to Nathan, then it goes back to Lucas in the car where she's dumping him off the road. I mean, it just didn't make any sense that it was Lucas and Rachel walking off, and then Lucas and Rachel in the car, and I'm like, what? And then it goes to them coming out of the school, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense, because at least now we're seeing Brooke at the mall. Well, that is more clear than Lucas. That didn't make any sense to me. I feel like there should have been that separation of Brooke, and Peyton in the gym, and then Nathan and Haley outside, and then it can go to what's happening afterwards, not right there.
Yeah, that would have made more sense. Yeah, so Brooke and Payne are taking the clothes off the table, and that's when the manager catches them asking what they're doing, and Brooke answers that she's...
Don't they owe money now?
Yeah, they should, yeah. So Brooke says they're taking her clothes back, but she can keep the mannequins, and the manager says that's stealing. And Brooke says like what she did to her, just to think of it as her using her 10% discount 10 times in a row.
It's probably more than that.
Yeah. And then they run out with the clothes and the alarm goes off. But then we see Mouth going to see Karen at the house, calling her Mayor Rowe. And she tells him he might be the only person to call her that. And he says that he wouldn't be so sure. And that's when he holds up his phone with the video recording of Dan hurting Nathan in the locker room. And he tells Karen, not very Mariel, or however you say that, is it? And then Lucas, yeah. And then Lucas ends up at the river court and he's narrating and he holds up, he's holding his heart because, nope, he's holding his heart meds in his hand and throws them into the river and we see it sink into the river. So I guess he's basically choosing to die, just so he can play without the struggle. So we know that's not going to end well.
I know. I was so annoyed at Lucas. I was like, so you'd rather die? That's
Yeah,
what it comes down to it. You
Yeah.
would rather die at 17 over basketball.
Yeah, and then he was stealing money from his mother just to buy them. So seemed like that was for nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I think is weird is that, you know how he would say, like, oh, I would put it back, like put the money back in at a certain time of the month or something. I'm like, so are you getting allowance? Is that where it's coming from? Because you don't have a job.
Yeah, I don't know. They haven't seen him at the cafe or
'Cause I
anything.
think
So.
because like when he was working with Keith in season 1, it's like
Mhm.
that's where the money was coming from, like his play money, because he
Mhm.
had a job. Well, now you don't. So where are you getting the money from? Because Dan was the one paying for it, and then now it's just kind of odd. I'm like, what? Plus, don't you think that it'd be on his insurance?
Yeah.
And Karen gets those bills.
Yep.
I mean, come on, like realistically, Karen would know that he has this medication.
Right.
Because she gets the mail, doesn't she?
Yeah. Yeah. That just reminded me of The Secret Life of American Teenager, because Amy was trying to keep her pregnancy a secret from her mom, but then after she went to a doctor's, her mom got the bills, so that's how she found out. But
Yeah, because that's realistic.
Yep.
I mean, this isn't that he's gonna just keep. I mean, it was one thing when Dan was paying for it, but
Mhm.
Dan's no longer paying for it. So that means
Right.
you are somehow still hiding it from your mom. That doesn't make any sense.
Unless he's buying it off the black market. Yeah, I really don't know how he's getting away with it.
But then how is he? But I still want to know how he is paying for it though, because he was taking it from the cafe, but then he would say he would put it back in. So I don't understand where that money was coming from.
Right.
Because if you end up putting the money back in there, why'd you need to take it in the first place?
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. They didn't really clarify that. They should have.
No, I'll always have these questions.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And then yeah, so that was the last of it. So the highs and lows for you.
The high was when Chris got slapped by Peyton and hitting the ball by Nathan.
Yeah, me too.
Like it all has to do with Chris.
Hmm.
And
Oh,
then
and when Nathan made him fall down too.
oh yeah. And then so that's the high. The low would be when Lucas threw the pills and when Dan pushed Nathan against the locker.
Yeah, me too.
And then what would you rate it?
Like an 8. And
Hmm.
you?
I'd go with a 9. It was interesting.
Yeah. And then best and worst.
Okay. So my best, I'm gonna go with Mouth because for some reason, Mouth is interested in this mayor election.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he probably heard the radio
Right.
and heard where nobody else was hearing about it because nobody else was talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the fact that he came through with that evidence,
Mm-hmm.
good,
Yeah,
good.
because I did think it was odd that he was in the locker room with other boys, because then that means Gigi was by herself, and who knows what she would have been saying. But if she was, doing the game by herself. But now
Well,
we
it
know
was
that it was.
after the game.
Oh yeah,
Remember,
yeah.
they lost, so
Right. Yeah.
they were done with. But he probably went there to maybe interview the players,
Oh yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
got their opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was nice because you can tell that he wants Karen to win.
Yeah. I
And
mean, I
then,
think they probably all do. I would say everybody probably does, anyways.
yeah. And then the worst was Dan. I mean, he's gonna pay Chris to do what, which we know what, but like because we watch the show, so we know what he's paying him to do. But at this moment we don't. We just know he's offering him money to do something bad,
Mm-hmm.
to wreck Nathan and Haley. as if they aren't already in a bad place.
Mhm.
And then how he's treating Deb as if she's just property and not an actual human being.
Mhm.
And I don't like what he's doing to Karen either. So, he was just the worst in this
Mhm.
episode, which I mean, most episodes.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, Dan's the same for me for worse. And I guess the best is Peyton just because she was trying to be there for Brooke about Lucas, and then she was actually starting to be nice to Haley again, and explain why she was mean to her in the first place. So yeah.
All right, and then what's the next episode?
Episode 9, How a Resurrection Really Feels.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thanks for listening.
Yep, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of Duo Chat. If you want to chime in with your opinion about the episode and the show we discussed, you can email us at duochatpodcast@gmail.com. And to keep up with updates about the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and subscribe to our channel on YouTube at Duo Chat Podcast. And give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We would appreciate it.